And when people come to me and I finally said, especially during the time in South Dakota, and came back, you want to interview this person? Interview? I said, you know what? I broke down and said, yes, bring him on. Go ahead. And the first
Okay.
person I had was Sandy Hellberg. And I have to
Yeah,
say this, it's like he was a great guy, but I
he
have to
is.
admit, preparing for Sandy Hellberg and trying to connect him, I was very nervous because I was afraid
Oh
of
yeah.
screwing up or asking the wrong question or phrasing a question the wrong way or saying something stupid like I don't
Uh-huh.
intend to. But it turned out it was just a regular conversation. Everything came together, and I learned a lot about Sandy Hellberg, what he went through, and of course, to make light of great things. And of course, just like with Mel Brooks, we're on that subject, is that there was an
Yeah.
article about him, and he was talking in an interview, and he said that political correctness is killing comedy today. And he says that's very
Yeah, I read
sad.
that. And it is, and it's good to be sensitive and aware of things. And you're right, there's some jokes that are dead now that you can't say because they're just in really bad taste. But yeah, Brooks was right about that. And Sandy was worked with him on a few occasions. And Sandy's a man, she's a great guy. It was your first interview. I remember that.
Mm.
And but I don't know. Like I said, it's really one day at a time. I know it's so simplistic and it sounds ridiculous, but I live one day at a time. So an average day for me is I will wake up at 5 a.m. and I will, I have a little dog named Kahlua, and I love this guy. This little puppy, and well, he's 3 now, but and I look after him, and then I will get messages from you, from God knows who, and then people that I work with on a set basis.
Uh-huh.
I will talk to them and then book them here or think of this, and so being on the phone or sending emails for like 9 hours a day, it's a grind.
Mm-hmm. It
But then, and, go
but
ahead.
but of course it's also something you enjoy doing as well. It's good to take a break and whatever else, chase
Yeah,
the dog
yeah,
around, play with the cat or whatever. So
yeah. I mean, you're right. It is. Or for me, it's getting out and doing walks because I don't really drive anymore like I used to. After the wreck, I don't drive.
mm-hmm.
It'd be a while before I drive again. So therefore, the freeways are safe. But I just with that, and then but is it overwhelming sometimes? Sometimes, yeah. But you have to choose, who you want to deal with, and at the end of it all. You know how we do our setting up process, and then you meet whoever, and you're going to interview this person. We set dates, and like, and so on. At the end of the day, when it finally gets released, and like this will be eventually, you hear it and be like, okay, well, we put that together, and there it is.
There you go. And you
Now
can
we don't know who's going to hear it out there. You heard by a million or 50, who knows? 50 people, a million, who God knows who. The point is that if you get good feedback and that's all that matters. We put things together and see what happens.
That's right, too. Of course, you never know who you will influence. It's just like I saw on Facebook that you may be having a bad day. Of course, the cup of coffee you serve will make a person smile, or the joke you tell will make a person laugh. And it's so true. It's like, what you say and do does affect, one person and maybe more. It may not affect one you intend, but could affect somebody else in a great way. And of course, you also have
Yeah.
some other challenging moments, too. And what would you say is probably the most, like say in a work day involving somebody or
Mhm.
an event or maybe on my show or something? What do you consider most challenging?
The most challenging. That's a good question. I don't think there is much of a challenge
Mm-hmm.
because everybody that, when I say, you're going to go on a program, they're very excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe the nerves, telling someone don't be nervous, you'll be fine. I mean that, live radio really, it really scares the hell out of people.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenging thing, I don't really see a lot of challenge with it. I really don't.
It sounds like
I
you.
mean,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Mike.
It sounds like you've conquered a lot of challenges and you do a great job of it. And of course, you obviously have your favorite project with this is the Mike Wagner Show, and of course, you've got some others as well too. And what do you consider the most memorable moment you ever encountered, either in talk radio or in acting or being a publicist or anything you did? What do you consider your most memorable moment?
Most memorable moment.
It can be hilarious. It can be a blooper. It can be funny, heartwarming. Take your pick.
I Blooper. I remember this is kind of funny. Um, I was producing that forward mentioned show in New York, and it actually doesn't involve it involves me of all people. And the guy who was the engineer, he was also a morning personality, and I remember him contacting me the night before, and he wanted to pull a prank on his co-host. And it was this woman who was his co-host, and she and I had never we never spoke, and but she was aware of who I was, but she didn't know my voice, she didn't know anything about me, and she got a ticket, and it was for it was like a parking ticket or some minuscule, citation. And this guy, he's like, Steve, he's like, we're gonna do the morning show. He said, I want you to we want to freak her out real bad. Let's get her, let's do, I think it was around April Fool's Day, so it was a prank. And I was notorious when I was a kid for pulling a lot of pranks. I would do ribs on people. I called them ribs. I was I'd be the guy that, like, when I was in gym class, I'd see a pair of jeans on the ground when someone was changing or out there, and I'd take the jeans and I'd tie them in a big knot, or I would cut the shoelace. I was a Dennis the Menace type kid. So this guy's like, I want you to call up. So he gave me the studio call-in number, and I called in, and he said, okay, now you call in, but he explained the whole engineering process where he makes it sound like he called me. And I was supposed to pretend like I was from the police department in that very town in New York. And I'm like, hi, blah, 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 police department, I'm Deputy Johnson or whatever. How can I help you with it? And he's like, oh, yeah, I want to talk about this. And this was all live on air. And she's like, yeah, I didn't get a ticket. And he told me little tidbits about her backstory, like where she lived a year before. And I'm like, well, did you used to live here? She's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, well, you have an outstanding warrant from this town. So no, I don't. I'm like, yeah, you failed. I'm just like ad-libbing the whole thing. And she's getting furious and angry, and I'm like, we're gonna have to swear out a warrant for your arrest. And the DJ is like, yeah, well, she's right here. Let me give you the address of the studio. And she's like, it was comical, yeah. And the thing is before, and then before he was gonna be like, okay, that was Steve Joyner. This is a joke, freak her out. I hung up on purpose, because when I would do a rib or a joke, I would never sometimes I never let anybody in on it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm kidding. So he'd be like, what do you do? I'm like, well, we're dispatching out right now. I'm all, or you have any weapons or whatever? So, oh, this is BS, and then he's all, sir, and I hung up. And then I could hear the radio on, and she's like, what the hell, and then she's like freaking out, and he's like, oh, that was Steve, and she's like, oh my God, so I could hear her yelling about me on the radio. So I don't know, that was one thing, and then I dealt with, I don't know. I had a short-lived talk show myself a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
I actually was a radio personality for a month and a half, and I interviewed, a couple normal people that I talked to on a daily basis, and it just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is very difficult, as an interviewer, and it's not easy. You have to, you do homework on the person and so on. So it's tough, but I don't know. And I've dealt with some actors that are they're all different. No two people are alike. No two people in general are alike.
I do agree with you on that one, too. And, of course, you got to learn how to adjust and everything else. And there's one thing I do got to say when it comes to broadcast school. They never, ever teach you how to prepare for a guest. It's always how to run the board, how to run this and everything else. And when I went to school at Southern Illinois University, they taught you everything, including the law, which is radio and TV. It's like, what you can say, can't say, study the FCC. And I spent a summer just attending that class because it took up a lot of time. And, of course, the good part is that they never had on weekends. It was either on radio or I'd be just out with friends, whatever it is. And, of course, South Illinois, party school, stuff like that. And then I just got to spend a summer by myself, and it was just beautiful. But, yes, it's like, broadcast schools, don't teach you all that, but it's like, it's something that you really have to get involved with. And, of course, just, a couple more things. And who'd you say your biggest influence in your career is?
My biggest influence in my career?
Yes, who was your biggest influence?
Carl Gottlieb.
Nice.
No, Carl's a dear friend, and he is probably one of the. It's funny. When I first met Carl, I was booking him on a program in New York, and it was a very short interview and a short conversation to book him. And the interview wasn't much longer actually, because but I became friends with Carl, and he wanted me to. He reached out to me one day. So when I first met him, he was very short, very very short. And I said, okay, it's this date, blah blah blah. The whole booking process, and I, said, oh, I like Jaws. Okay, thank you. And then boom, very very short. And he went on there and he did it, and then out of the blue, I think I put him on another program, and we had a little bit longer conversation. I called him Mr. Golly. He was on. He called me Carl.
Mm-hmm.
I called, first name basis, right on. And then one day he contacted me. He said, I want to build a public profile page outside of my normal Facebook page because I've been bothered by things, fans and so on, and Jaws fanatics. And I said, sure. He said, come by the house. And I went over, summons to his house. I went over there and we put together a page, and he and I became friends.
Nice.
And we monitored the page, and we do Throwback Thursdays, like a picture of Steve Martin and the Jerk, or Caveman, or one of his deals. And then we did one autograph show this summer, which was a blast. He came up here, and he's probably one of my biggest influences
That
by
is
far.
that is very nice, and I'm sure he gave you a hug like Zug Zug, like in Caveman or so.
No, 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 but he
I'm kidding.
but he was I mean, the guy has been around for a long time, very long time, but he's done a lot of creative things, as you know. You've interviewed him, and
Mm-hmm.
he is he's just a very, very humble human being. And yeah, probably my biggest influence has been Carl.
That is amazing too. And of course, we have a couple of minutes left here with Steve Joyner,
Alrighty,
and just one more thing. How would you describe the Mike Wagner show in your words?
my words, the Mike Wagner show, huh? It's a labor of love that you love doing, and it really makes a good impact on a culture that needs more shows like the Mike Wagner show.
Very, very heartwarming, very succinct. I like that. And of course,
Yeah, I mean
I
that. I mean, you're a good guy, and you really put your all into it, and you really. I have had nobody come back to me say, "Oh, I never want to do that show again." I have had today. I had someone. I think I told you about that offline about a friend of mine who did a program, and he just hated it. So it's a show that in a time where we need good quality programming. That's why sponsoring it and being a part of it, all it's a good thing, because there needs to be more guys like that. You're one of the good guys, Mike.
Well, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, Steve Joyner. You're a great executive producer as well, and I call you my executive producer, not just a publicist, but executive producer. It's like putting up there like with President Trump. I don't know if it'd be that high or anything like that, but I put you at a very high level, and of course, just another thing, and you also got some upcoming projects. You can tell us about that, and how do people reach you?
They can reach me. Well, my professional emails on the Mike Wagner Show page if they want to talk about getting involved with the program. Facebook, I'm like you. We're all tapped out. We have people falling off and on every now and then, but I'm out there. You know, I'm reaching. I really am. I'm reachable every day. It's weird. I mean, this has been fun. It's been really fun. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope I haven't bored people to death. But
No, you're never boring, believe me. And it's like I got to
no,
come up to your place sometime and maybe catch a hockey
yeah,
game like in the winter, or just take a trip up to Canada and just have a little beer and watch hockey or something. It's like
well, I'm in
or
I'm in California, Mike. We don't do hockey that
I
much down here.
well, then again, you got the Los Angeles Kings though, and of course you got some minor league hockey and whatever else, or even take a
Yeah.
baseball game, or maybe go see the Rams or the
Well,
49ers or something.
you gotta come out here, because like 85% of the people you've interviewed live in Los Angeles and in California. You got to come out here just to physically meet the people you've interviewed.
And I do have to say one thing. I was in California in 1978. I was in Long Beach staying with my aunt for 3 weeks, and we did hit Los Angeles. attended the Dodgers when they were big, and the Atlanta Braves stunk, but the Braves won. I remember that. And of course, we
Yep.
hit a few places in L.A. We went to Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, and quite a few